the S&P as well as the NASDAQ, and you're just hanging in there. You can't move away from it at this point.
Yeah, no, I think it's hard when, typically when you have such a run like this. I mean, we know NASDAQ was up 16%. We're making new highs today. There will typically be a pause in the market. And certainly when you look back, there's been some interesting historical comparisons in the last 35 years. There's only been 4 times where we were up 10% a month, and then there was always underperformance after that. So that would be normal here. However, as we were talking about, the earnings coming in are just breathtaking.
Yeah.
I mean, just a week ago, we were looking at 16% earnings growth in the aggregate for the S&P 500. We're now just under 28%. That's extraordinary. And the profit margins are coming in much stronger. They're at record highs, and even their predictions for the rest of the year. So we've got great earnings and profit margin growth to support this market, but you also have the unknown, Iran, which nobody's paying attention to right now. But their supply shock impact can take a while to feed through. But it looks like things are so strong here, and you don't know that we talked about productivity. That is definitely going to happen in terms of keeping inflation tamped down. But how long does that take to feed through? Maybe it's feeding through right now.
For the Mac or memory increases in terms of pricing, was it even better than you thought? I mean, it seems like it would surprise everybody.
It was. I think it really did surprise everybody. I've owned Apple for a long time, but even, it's just sort of being patient, because there is a question about, how well would the iPhone sell? What's happening with their new Mac computer? Is services peaking? And there were lots of questions, but they blew away the numbers, as you saw. I mean, earnings were supposed to be up 17%. They came in 22%. Revenues were supposed to be 14%, up 17%. But what really did it was the guidance up dramatically for revenues this quarter, from 9% to mid-teens. So, and they're just firing all cylinders. So the margins were better than expected, services on every count. So, and apparently the iPhone 17 is one of their best-selling phones. So
yes, people were skeptical of this iPhone cycle, and yet it turned out to be the best-selling in all of Apple history.
And China International is doing well too, so it's looking promising. And we'll see what the new CEO brings to the table and how he changes the position. But one of the important things, as we know, the big knock was their delay in getting involved in AI.
Right.
But they're promising that there will be an intelligent, a personalized Siri, by year end. And I think they're smart. They're not having to invest in all this AI infrastructure spending. They will just use existing ones out there. So I think it still looks good.
Areas that you're concerned about, if you had to be concerned about an area, I mean, is it semis? I mean, certain areas have really run up. We've seen Intel a double. I mean, it's just a crazy run. You don't own it, but you own adjacent names.
I do. And Intel's very interesting because Intel doubled in a month, right? Yeah. And that, I think, is a function of people believe, okay, the turnaround story may actually happen. People thought this is AI structurally dead. But clearly there's some strategic interests in having chip manufacturing onshore. They're now manufacturing chips, et cetera, et cetera. But that one, I don't think I would touch here. I mean, I don't own it, because it hasn't been a great name. But the AI, the one thing I'm not backing off on is the AI infrastructure play and the AI hyperscalers, because I think what we're seeing where all the hyperscalers that announced this week, whether it was Amazon, Google, Alphabet, or Microsoft, they're increasing their CapEx and into 27 because that is how big the demand is. I mean, you saw, I think it was Google was cloud revenue was up 63%. Yep. That's going to continue. So, and I think what's going to be interesting is next week we have the, what I would call the real economy names continue to report, and that's Eaton, and Emerson, and the Rockwell, and that's going to be interesting to see because they are plays, very much on what's happening in the industrial side of things, which they're obviously AI is driving a lot of that. Yeah. So that, that will be very telling, I think, in terms of what they report. So that's one thing I'm watching closely.
Barbara, great to see you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Barbara Doran.